Hello there. In this video lecture, we'll see how to create a dataset. Let me just create a file, Scala file. I'll create a Scala app, and let me create a Spark session. And I have my Spark session ready. To create a dataset, first of all, you have to identify what are the columns available in your data. To identify what are the columns available in your data, first you have to go through your uh, data file. It can be a JSON file or a CSV file or a Parquet file or Avro file. You have to see what are the columns you are dealing with. So let me just quickly go through the data file which I have. Here I have a couple of files which are related to the movie data set. And I have ratings, credits, keywords, links, and some small CSV files. In this, I want to load, let's assume I want to load ratings file, right? There are two different files. One is with small size, one is with the large size. Let me just try to load the small one. I'll just see what all the columns available over here. Uh, you can see there are one, two, three, and four columns available. So to create my dataset, I should have a case class or with these four columns, right? So whenever you want to create a dataset should be and can be created only with the case with the help of case class. So first, as per my data requirement, I have to create a case class. Let me create a case class of I'm creating a rating, right? Ratings case class. And there are four columns in my rating class. One is user ID, movie ID, rating, and timestamp. And you can see user ID is as an integer, movie ID as an integer, rating as a float or double value, and timestamp is also as an integer. Timestamp you can use either as an integer or as a long, right? So let me just create these four columns in my case class. User ID as integer and movie ID as integer, rating as float, and timestamp as uh, I'll just create as integer, right? I have created a case class here. Now, how to create a data set? Let me just create a value ratings data set, and I can use Spark, and I'm using a CSV file over here, right? So I have to read this particular CSV file. So read spark dot read dot c. For reading CSV file, we have a couple of options, right? So if you are not aware of how to read a CSV file, I will leave a description over somewhere on the screen for my previous video lecture, which deals with reading a CSV file. Okay, you can go through that video. So I'll have header as true, and I'll have option info schema as true, and I will load my CSV file. What is the location of my CSV file? I'll just give it ratings underscore small dot CSV. Now that this is how usually we create a data frame, right? Then what is the difference on where exactly we are creating a data set? You can see here whatever we are getting from this is a data frame. Then how to create this data frame, whatever we are creating, and convert into a data set is simple. Just give as, and you refer the case class whatever we have created over here. And straight away, after we create this as ratings, right, we are getting our Eclipse is throwing an error. This is because whenever we are using or whenever we are creating a data set, we have to use Spark implicit functions, right? To use the Spark implicit functions, what you have to do is whatever you have created the Spark session over here, right? This Spark session will have something called implicits that you have to import it. Once you import this implicits, all the errors will be gone. Remember, the Spark, whatever we are importing over here, it's not like Apache Spark thing. It is whatever session you have created. For example, if I have created my Spark session as Spark session, here when I'm importing the implicits, I have to use Spark session, right? This is the tricky part, and you have to remember this. Okay. So now, whenever we are treating this CSV file, whatever we have loaded, and we are linking it to the ratings case class, whichever we have created like this, the resultant will be a data set. You can see that the class, whatever, or the variable is of type data set of ratings. Okay. So what exactly happens here is whenever Spark loads this CSV file, it converts each and every row of the CSV file into a rating object. The first row, suppose for example, the first row we have 1, 31, 22.5 and this numeric timestamp. Spark will take this entire row and this row will be converted into a CSV ratings object, right? So that is how it will be converting the CSV file of data frame into uh, a data set of ratings. Okay, this is how you create a data set. Let me just try to print the data set elements, and the rest of the functions which we use with the data set are almost identical to or almost same as data frame API functions. We can work with almost same things, and whatever functions or whatever transformations and actions you use in the RDD and data frame APIs, the same thing can be applied on data sets as well. The difference between the data frame and the data set would be the performance. I'll show you the performance of, I'll compare the performance of the data set and the data frame in my future video. But right now, we'll just try to print the elements of the data set over here. So I have created the entire thing and I'm using dataset.show. Let me run the code and we are getting some error. Yeah. The type path, the target is scalar float, name is a rating. So the name, whatever we are having over here, right, we have converted into the float. Instead of that, we have to convert this as a double. This is because of the precision part. When we convert this into a double, I think we'll not have any issues. Yes, the job is running fine and we don't have any issues. We have to treat that as a double rather than scalar float. That was the error, right? And here we have to observe one more thing. When we are reading the CSV file, right, we are asking the Spark compiler or Spark to infer the schema. What if we don't infer the schema? What exactly happens over there? If we don't infer the schema, what happens? All the data types, all the schema will be considered as a string schema, right? When we have a string schema and we are applying as data types or case class over the string schema, right? The conversion between the string and the actual data types will not happen properly. Thereby, it will throw an error that it cannot convert a string to the integer or something like that. I can just run that. I have just commented this infer schema over here, and I'll try to run the job again. You can see the error what we'll get. So whenever you have to remember, whenever you are reading a text file or anything, right? Initially a CSV file or anything, it's better to have info schema in place. You can see that uh, it is not it doesn't it's not able to convert this into a Java integer, cannot cast up from user ID from string to an integer. It may truncate. For that reason, it's not converting the string to integer. Right. The reason exactly behind that is, suppose we'll have something like integer value or something like this. Very long. Suppose we have very long integer values, something like this. If this value is, if it is trying to convert, this is treated as a string, right? When we are trying to apply a string, integer value on this string, it is crossing beyond integer range, right? When it is crossing beyond integer range, the conversion, whatever it happens, it won't happen properly. That is the reason earlier when we have given this rating as a float as well, it failed because it cannot typecast. It states that it might, the results or whatever it tried to typecast, right, it might truncate. That is the reason it won't convert the data type. So it's better to have a info schema instead of converting the string data type into a case class data type directly. This issue won't happen when we are inferring schema with a data frame, but it happens when we are converting the data frame or when we are creating a data set using a case class. Okay, this is one important pointer we have to remember. Okay, guys. In this lecture, we have seen how to create a data set and what are the basic things we have to follow when you're creating a data set. Okay, that's it for this lecture, guys. And in the next lecture, we'll see what are the basic operations and what are the other, how to convert a data frame into a data set. These things we'll see in our next video sessions. Okay, guys. And that's it for this lecture, and see you in the next video. Bye, guys.